The cargo ship descended through the docking bay doors of Nexus 7 with a soft hiss of landing thrusters. The vessel was old but well maintained, painted in faded blues and grays that spoke of countless journeys through space. On its hull, written in both human script and galactic standard, was the name Morning Star, and below it, the registration marking it as an Earth vessel. Inside the station's processing center, Felix watched the ship settle onto its designated pad. He was the morning shift security officer, a Valerian whose pale blue skin and large dark eyes gave him an appearance that humans might have found gentle. His species had evolved on a world where being alert and cautious meant survival. He pulled up the ship's manifest on his datapad, scrolling through the usual information. One human crew member, standard trading goods, nothing unusual. The airlock cycled and a human stepped out into the station. Do-hyun was in his early 30s with dark hair and an easy smile. He wore practical clothes, a dark jacket over a simple shirt and cargo pants with many pockets. He carried a large duffel bag over one shoulder and pulled a hovering cargo crate behind him. Felix approached, his translator device chirping to life. "Welcome to Nexus 7. Please present your identification and cargo manifest." Do-hyun reached into his jacket and produced a data card, handing it over smoothly. "Thanks, good to be here. It's been a long flight from the outer colonies." Felix scanned the card, watching as the human's information populated his screen. Everything looked normal. Your manifest shows textiles, preserved foods, and entertainment media. All standard trade goods. How long will you be staying? 3 days, maybe 4, Do-hyun replied, glancing around the busy station. Aliens of a dozen different species moved through the docking area, loading and unloading cargo, greeting arrivals, saying goodbyes. "Depends on how fast I can sell my stock. And you're traveling alone?" Felix asked, making a note on his datapad. Do-hyun paused, then smiled. "I have a companion aboard. I'll be bringing him out later, once I've got my cargo situated and found accommodations." Felix nodded, assuming the human meant another crew member who was still aboard the ship. "Very well. Bay fees are 50 credits per day, payable in advance. The merchant quarter is on level 3. Temporary housing is available on level 5. Do-hyun paid the fees and received his station pass, a small device that would allow him access to public areas. He thanked Felix and began moving his cargo toward the lifts. The security officer watched him go, then turned his attention to the next arrival. It was just another routine day on Nexus 7, or so he thought. Over the next few hours, Do-hyun set up a small trading stall in the merchant quarter. The area was a massive open space filled with hundreds of vendors, each selling goods from across the galaxy. The air hummed with conversation in dozens of languages, all filtered through translator devices. Holographic displays advertised everything from exotic foods to rare minerals to cultural artifacts. Do-hyun's stall was modest, but well organized. He displayed samples of Earth textiles, silk, cotton, wool, each fabric strange and interesting to alien buyers. He arranged jars of preserved foods, things like honey and jam and pickled vegetables that were considered exotic delicacies in many parts of the galaxy. And he had a small selection of human entertainment media, music and films and games that some aliens collected as curiosities. His first customer was a Thelian merchant named Chila. She was small, barely reaching Do-hyun's chest, with smooth gray skin and large, nervous eyes. Her species came from a world where almost everything was a predator, and it showed in her cautious movements. "These fabrics," she said, touching a sample of silk with one delicate finger, "they come from insects on your world?" "From silkworms, yes," Do-hyun explained. "They're small creatures that spin cocoons. We harvest the silk and weave it into cloth." Keela's eyes widened. "Your world has insects large enough to produce this much material?" Do-hyun chuckled. "Actually, they're quite small. It takes thousands of them to make enough silk for one garment. But they're easy to farm, very docile." "Docile," Keela repeated, as if testing the word. "I have heard strange things about Earth. They say your world is very dangerous." "It can be," Do-hyun admitted. "But humans have learned to live with the dangers. We've adapted. I have also heard," Keela continued, lowering her voice, "that Earth has predators. Large ones. Is this true?" Do-hyun's smile grew a bit wider. "Oh yes, very true. Some are dangerous, some less so. Depends on the predator." Keela shuddered but seemed fascinated, She purchased several meters of silk and hurried away, glancing back at Do-hyun as if seeing him in a new light. The day continued like this. Do-hyun sold his goods, chatted with customers, and answered questions about Earth. Many aliens were curious about the human homeworld, this planet that had produced such strange and hardy creatures as humans themselves. As evening approached on the station, evening being an artificial construct on a space station, but maintained for the comfort of species with circadian rhythms, Do-hyun began packing up his stall. He had made good sales and was pleased with the day's work, but nearby vendors noticed something odd. Throughout the day, Do-hyun had returned to his ship several times, always alone, and each time strange sounds could be heard from inside the vessel, sounds that were hard to identify through the thick hull, but which made some of the more sensitive aliens uncomfortable. One of these vendors, a crystalline being named Shek, mentioned it to another. "Have you heard the noises from that human ship?" The other vendor, a floating jellyfish-like alien named Prill, undulated in what might have been a shrug. "Many species make sounds we find strange. Perhaps it is human music." "Perhaps," Shek replied, unconvinced. Back in the security center, Valix was reviewing the day's recordings as part of his standard procedure. He scrolled through footage of the docking bay, the merchant quarter, the residential levels. Everything seemed normal until he reached the feed from Do-hyun's ship. The exterior cameras showed Do-hyun entering and exiting several times, always closing the airlock behind him. But one camera, positioned at an angle, had caught something during one of those brief moments when the door was open. Felix paused the footage and zoomed in. There, barely visible in the ship's dim interior, was a shape. Something large, something with 4 legs, and in one frozen frame he could see what looked like teeth, large, sharp teeth. Felix felt his skin prickle with instinctive alarm. He enhanced the image as much as the system would allow, but it remained frustratingly unclear. The shape was definitely an animal of some kind, but what kind? He checked the human's manifest again. 1 crew member. No mention of any animals. No biological cargo listed. Technically, small pets were allowed on the station. Many species traveled with companion animals, but this thing looked big. Much bigger than the typical pets he was used to seeing. Felix made a note to speak with the human in the morning. It was probably nothing. Perhaps the human had filed the wrong paperwork. Perhaps it was a large but harmless creature, but something in Velix's instincts honed over thousands of generations of evolution on a dangerous world, told him that tomorrow might not be routine at all. In his ship, Do-hyun sat on the floor of the small cabin, his back against a storage locker. Beside him, a massive animal rested its head on his lap. The creature was covered in thick fur, gray and white and black with pointed ears and a long snout. Its eyes were intelligent and alert, watching Do-hyun's face with obvious affection. "Good boy, Baram," Do-hyun murmured, scratching behind the animal's ears. "Tomorrow we'll go for a walk. You'll like that, won't you?" The animal's tail thumped against the floor. Outside, the station hummed with life, completely unaware of what morning would bring. Morning on Nexus 7 began like any other morning. The station's artificial lighting brightened gradually, mimicking a sunrise. Shops opened their doors. Vendors set up their stalls. Workers headed to their jobs. The station held nearly 10,000 residents and visitors at any given time, representing over 40 different species from across the galaxy. Kren was a maintenance worker, part of the team that kept the station's environmental systems running smoothly. He was a Hixian, a species that looked somewhat like a tall, thin rabbit with gray-green fur and large, expressive eyes. His people had evolved as prey animals on their homeworld, and despite thousands of years of civilization, certain instincts remained strong. He was walking through the main promenade on level 3, carrying a toolbox and heading toward a reported air circulation problem, when he saw them. At first he only noticed the human. Do-hyun was walking casually through the crowded promenade, looking at the various shops and stalls. Nothing unusual about that. Humans visited the station regularly, but then Kren saw what was walking beside the human and his entire body froze. It was huge. Easily as large as a Hixian, but built low to the ground with powerful muscles visible beneath thick fur. It moved with a predator's grace, each step deliberate and controlled. Its head was massive with a long snout full of teeth. Kren could see them white and sharp as the creature's mouth hung slightly open. Its eyes were amber-colored, scanning the crowd with obvious intelligence, and it was not in a cage. Not restrained in any way except for a thin lid attached to a collar around its neck, held loosely in the human's hand. Kren's instincts screamed at him. Predator. Danger. Run. He dropped his toolbox. The clatter made several nearby aliens turn to look, and then they saw the creature too. A Valerian gasped. A Thelian shrieked. A crystalline being made a sound like breaking glass. And Kren, acting purely on instinct, slammed his hand against the nearest emergency panel. The alarm was deafening. Red lights began flashing throughout the station. Automated warnings blared in every language. Predator alert, predator alert. All personnel proceed to secure zones. Emergency bulkheads activating. The effect was immediate and chaotic. Throughout Nexus 7, massive metal doors began sliding down from the ceiling, dividing the station into isolated sections. This was a safety system designed for many emergencies: hull breaches, fires, dangerous cargo spills. But it had another purpose, one that dated back to the early days of galactic commerce when different species first began meeting each other. Sometimes a prey species and a predator species would meet. And sometimes instincts would override civilization. The lockdown system could save lives by keeping them separated until security could respond. In the promenade, panic erupted. Aliens scattered in every direction, scrambling to reach the safe zones before the bulkheads sealed. Some species literally trampled others in their rush to escape. Vendors abandoned their stalls. Shoppers dropped their purchases and ran. Do-hyun stood in the center of the chaos, completely calm. One hand still held Baram's lead. The other had moved to rest on the animal's head, keeping him steady amid the noise and confusion. Baram, for his part, seemed more confused than anything. His ears were back, pressed against his skull from the alarm's volume, but he stayed close to Do-hyun, looking up at him for guidance. "It's okay, boy," Do-hyun said quietly, his voice barely audible over the alarms. "Just stay calm." Within minutes, security teams arrived. Velix was among them, his face pale with fear and anger. Behind him were 6 armed guards, each carrying a weapon trained on Baram. The guards represented 3 different species, but they all shared the same expression: absolute terror. "Do not move," Velix shouted, his translator struggling to keep up with his rapid speech. "Keep that creature absolutely still." Do-hyun raised his free hand slowly, showing he was not a threat. "Easy. Everyone needs to calm down. Baram is not dangerous." "Not dangerous?" Velix's voice rose higher. "That is a predator. An apex predator. I can see its teeth from here." More security personnel arrived, including Commander Thess. She was an arachnoid, a spider-like being with 6 legs and 8 eyes. Her species had no natural predators on their homeworld, which made them good at command positions. They could think clearly in situations where prey species panicked, but even Commander Thess looked unsettled as she approached. "Keeping a safe distance." "Human Do-hyun," she said, her voice tight with controlled tension. "Explain immediately why you have brought an unlisted predator onto this station." "His name is Baram," Do-hyun replied, keeping his voice calm and steady. "He's my companion. I didn't realize I needed special permission to bring him. Your manifest listed no animals. I didn't think to list him. Where I come from, he's just considered a pet." This statement caused a ripple of disbelief through the gathered security forces. A pet? That massive creature with its powerful jaws and sharp teeth was a pet? Chila had been caught on the wrong side of a bulkhead and was trapped in the same section as Do-hyun. She peered out from behind a cargo container, her large eyes fixed on Baram with terrified fascination. "Humans keep predators as pets?" she whispered to herself, unable to believe it. Commander Thess moved closer, though not too close. Her multiple eyes examined Baram from different angles. "What species is this creature?" "He's a dog," Do-hyun explained. "Well, specifically, he's part wolf. A wolf-dog hybrid. His breed is called a Northern Inuit, wolf dog," Thess repeated slowly. "You are saying this creature is a hybrid between 2 predator species?" "Well, dogs and wolves are actually the same species genetically. Dogs are just domesticated wolves." The security team exchanged glances. "Domesticated." That word again. "And by domesticated," Velix asked carefully, "you mean they are controlled? Caged?" "No," Do-hyun said. "I mean they live with us. In our homes. as family members. The silence that followed was heavy with incomprehension. These aliens, many from prey species worlds, could not grasp the concept. Predators living with humans as family. Then Barum, who had been sitting patiently this whole time, made a decision. He yawned. It was a simple, ordinary dog yawn. He opened his mouth wide, showing every single one of his teeth. The sharp canines, the powerful molars, the carnivore's jaw built for tearing meat. His tongue curled and he made a small sound, something between a whine and a groan. 3 security guards fainted. 2 others raised their weapons higher. Velix took several steps backward, his legs trembling. Do-Hyun sighed. He's just yawning. He's tired. We woke up early. Those teeth, Keela whispered from her hiding place. Those are killing teeth. Before anyone could respond, footsteps echoed through the promenade. More humans were arriving, drawn by the commotion. A woman in her late 20s jogged up, her black hair pulled back in a ponytail. This was Minji, another human trader who had been on the station for a week. Do-Hyun, she called out. I heard the alarms. What's going on? Is that Barum? Oh, he's gotten so big. She walked right past the security team, completely ignoring their weapons, and dropped to her knees in front of Barum. The dog's tail began wagging immediately, a blur of motion. Minji scratched him behind the ears, and Barum leaned into her touch, making happy sounds. The security team watched in stunned silence. The human female was touching the predator, voluntarily, and the predator seemed to like it. Another human arrived, a man in a station engineer's uniform. Hyunwoo had been working on Nexus 7 for 3 months, one of several human technicians hired for their skill with complex machinery. He saw Barum and grinned. Hey, good boy, he said cheerfully, walking over to pat Barum's side. The dog's tail wagged even harder. Commander Thess watched this display with all 8 eyes. You all know this creature? Sure, Minji said, still scratching Barum's ears. Do-Hyun's told us about him. We've been asking when we'd get to meet him. And you are not afraid? Felix asked, his voice barely a whisper. Hyunwoo looked genuinely confused. Afraid of Barum? Why would we be afraid? He is a predator. He's a dog, Hyunwoo corrected gently. Dogs are friends. Tessa's legs shifted as she processed this information. She looked at Do-Hyun, then at Barum, then at the other humans casually interacting with what her instincts screamed was a dangerous predator. This is unacceptable, she said finally. That creature must be contained immediately, or you will be forced to leave the station. Do-Hyun's expression became serious. Commander, I understand this is unusual for you, but Barum is trained. He's safe. He's been with me for 6 years, traveled to dozens of stations, and never caused any problems. That may be true, but this station has citizens from 40 different species. Many of them are prey species. The psychological distress alone. Then let me prove it, Do-Hyun interrupted. Give me a chance to show you that Barum is safe. Let me demonstrate his training, Thess hesitated. Around them, the station remained in lockdown, alarms still blaring. Thousands of frightened aliens were sealed in safe zones, waiting to hear if the danger had passed. One demonstration, Thess said finally, in a controlled environment. But if I am not satisfied, you and your creature leave immediately. Agreed? Do-Hyun nodded. Agreed. Felix stepped forward. Commander, is this wise? Thess's multiple eyes blinked in sequence. Probably not. But I am curious. Humans have a reputation across the galaxy for being unusual. Let us see just how unusual they truly are. The cargo bay on level 2 had been cleared in a hurry. Normally it held shipments waiting for pickup or delivery. But within an hour, station workers had moved everything out, creating a large empty space. One wall was entirely transparent, reinforced glass that could withstand decompression. Behind this wall, hundreds of aliens had gathered to watch. Commander Thess had announced the demonstration over the station-wide communication system. Attendance was voluntary, but curiosity overcame fear for many residents. They wanted to see this impossible thing, a human and a predator together. The crowd behind the glass represented dozens of species. Some were brave enough to press close to the window. Others stayed far back, ready to run if the glass failed. Many had never seen a predator in person before. On their homeworlds, predators had been extinct for thousands of years, or existed only in carefully controlled preserves, far from civilization. Inside the cargo bay, Do-Hyun stood with Barum at his side, The dog sat calmly, his tongue hanging out slightly. If he was aware of the crowd watching him, he showed no sign of caring. His attention was fixed on Do-hyun, waiting for commands. Around the bay's perimeter, security guards stood with weapons ready. Commander Thess had insisted on this precaution. Velix was among them, his hands trembling slightly as he gripped his stun rifle. Minji and Hyunwoo stood near the entrance, both looking relaxed. Minji had volunteered to help with the demonstration, and Hyunwoo had offered to explain things to the crowd through a microphone connected to speakers behind the glass. Commander Thess moved to the center of the bay, keeping a careful distance from Baram. Her 6 legs carried her in a slow circle around the human and his companion, examining them from all angles. "Begin whenever you are ready," she said. Do-hyun nodded. He looked down at Baram and said something in a language the translator did not recognize. "Korean," Hyunwoo explained to the crowd. "One of Earth's many languages." Baram stood immediately, his posture alert but not aggressive. Do-hyun began walking across the bay, and Baram followed, staying close to his left side. Their movement was synchronized as if they had practiced this countless times, which Do-hyun could have told them they had. "Every day for 6 years. This is called healing," Hyunwoo narrated for the crowd. "The dog stays beside the human, matching their pace. It is one of the first things humans teach their dogs." Do-hyun stopped. Baram stopped. Do-hyun turned right. Baram turned right. Do-hyun turned left. Baram turned left, the crowd murmured. This level of coordination was impressive, but it looked almost like the predator was being controlled, like a robot following programmed commands. Then Do-hyun said another word, and Baram sat, another word, and Baram lay down, his belly pressed against the cold floor, another word, and Baram rolled over, his legs in the air, showing his vulnerable stomach to the room. Keela, watching from the crowd, felt something shift in her understanding. A predator showing its belly was a sign of submission, of trust. This creature trusted the human completely. "These are basic obedience commands," Hyunwoo continued. "All trained dogs know them. Sit, stay down, roll over. But Baram knows many more." Do-hyun walked to one corner of the bay and picked up a small rubber ball that had been placed there earlier. He held it up so Baram could see it. The dog's entire body tensed with excitement, his tail beginning to wag. "Watch," Do-hyun said to Commander Thess. He threw the ball across the bay. Baram exploded into motion. The crowd gasped as the predator ran, his powerful muscles propelling him forward with terrifying speed. In seconds, he reached the ball, scooped it up in his mouth, and turned back toward Do-hyun. Several aliens in the crowd actually screamed, certain they were about to witness an attack. But Baram simply ran back to Do-hyun and dropped the ball at his feet. His tail wagged furiously, and he looked up at his human with obvious joy. "Again," Do-hyun said, throwing the ball once more. They repeated this several times. Each time Baram ran with the same speed and power, and each time he brought the ball back without hesitation. "This is called fetch," Hyunwoo explained. "It is a game. Humans and dogs play it for fun." "Fun?" Velix whispered, unable to comprehend. "That speed, that power used for a game?" Now Minji stepped forward. She had changed into protective padding, the kind used for training exercises. Commander Thess had insisted on this precaution. "The next part might look scary," Hyunwoo warned the crowd. "But please remember, everything you see is controlled. Everything is safe." Minji walked to the far end of the bay. Do-hyun positioned himself in the middle with Baram sitting beside him. Then Minji started shouting. She was yelling in Korean, sounding distressed, frightened. She waved her arms and stumbled backward, acting like someone in danger. Baram's ears perked up. He looked at Do-hyun, waiting. Do-hyun said a single word. Baram moved. He crossed the distance to Minji in seconds and positioned himself between her and the rest of the room. His posture changed completely. His head lowered. His lips pulled back slightly, showing his teeth. A low sound came from his throat. Not quite a growl, but a clear warning. The crowd fell completely silent. This was a predator in protection mode. This was what they had feared. Hyunwoo spoke carefully, making sure everyone understood. "Baram is protecting Minji. He thinks she is in danger. This is what dogs do. They protect their pack, their family." Commander Thess took a cautious step toward Minji. Baram's eyes tracked her movement. The sound from his throat grew louder. "Baram, enough," Do-hyun called out. Instantly, the dog relaxed. His posture softened. His lips covered his teeth. He looked back at Do-hyun and then at Minji, as if asking if he had done a good job. Minji laughed and patted his head. Good boy, Baram. Very good boy. She walked back toward Dohyun and Baram followed, his tail wagging again. The transformation from guardian to happy pet happened in seconds, do you see? Dohyun addressed Commander Thess directly. He only acts on command. He protects when told to protect. He relaxes when told to relax. He is completely under control. Thess moved closer, her multiple eyes studying Baram carefully. This level of training must take years. It does, Dohyun agreed. I got Baram when he was 8 weeks old. Just a puppy. I have been training him ever since. And any human can do this? Can train a predator this way? Hyunwoo answered through the microphone. Not just any human. It takes time, patience, and understanding. But yes, humans have been training dogs for thousands of years. Tens of thousands of years, actually. It is part of our history. One of the aliens in the crowd, a floating jellian named Prill, spoke up through a translator. But why? Why would humans do this? Why not just avoid predators like sensible species do? Hyunwoo paused, considering how to explain. Because humans needed help. Our ancestors were not the strongest or the fastest creatures on Earth. They needed allies. And wolves, the ancestors of dogs, were intelligent, social, and good hunters. So humans and wolves formed a partnership. Partnership? Keela's voice came from the crowd. With predators? Yes, Hyunwoo said simply. Humans shared food and shelter with wolves. Wolves helped humans hunt and warned them of danger. Over time, over many generations, wolves became dogs. They changed, became friendlier, more loyal to humans. And humans changed too, learning to trust and love these animals. Minji stepped forward, gesturing for the microphone. Hyunwoo handed it to her. Can I tell them something? She asked Commander Thess. Thess's legs shifted in what might have been a shrug. Please, Minji spoke directly to the crowd. I know this is strange for you. I know your worlds are different from Earth. But I want you to understand something important. Baram is not just a trained animal to Dohyun. He is family. If someone threatened Dohyun, Baram would protect him. And if someone threatened Baram, Dohyun would protect him just as fiercely. She paused, making sure they understood. This is not about control. This is about love. Humans love their dogs and dogs love their humans. That is the real bond you are seeing. The crowd was quiet, processing this information. Then Keela did something brave. She approached the glass and pressed her hand against it. May I come inside? May I meet Baram? Several aliens around her gasped. Felix started to protest, but Commander Thess raised one leg, silencing him. You understand the risk? Thess asked. I do, Keela said, though her voice trembled. But I want to understand. I want to see this for myself. The door to the cargo bay opened and Sheila stepped inside. She was so small compared to Baram, barely reaching Dohyun's waist. She approached slowly, her large eyes fixed on the dog. Baram watched her come, his ears forward with interest. His tail wagged slowly. Let him smell your hand first, Dohyun instructed gently. Let him know you are friendly. Keela extended one shaking hand. Baram leaned forward and sniffed, his nose working. Then he did something that made Sheila gasp. He licked her hand, one long swipe of his tongue. He likes you, Dohyun said, smiling. May I touch him? Of course. Sheila placed her hand on Baram's head, feeling the soft fur, the solid skull beneath. The predator did not move, just sat there patiently, letting her explore. He is warm, Sheila whispered. All mammals are, Minji said softly. And his fur is soft. Very soft. Dohyun agreed. He likes being petted. It makes him happy. As if to prove this point, Baram's tail began wagging faster. Sheila looked up at Dohyun, tears forming in her large eyes. On my world, predators killed my ancestors. For thousands of generations, we fled from them. We built cities to hide from them. The 2 days passed on Nexus 7 and an uneasy peace settled over the station. Commander Thess had sent out notices to all residents explaining the situation. A human had brought a trained predator aboard. It was not dangerous, but citizens should maintain a respectful distance. The reactions were mixed. Some aliens accepted this easily. Others remained nervous. A few prey species changed their daily routes to avoid any areas where Dohyun and Baram might be seen. But slowly, curiosity began to overcome fear. On the morning of the 3rd day, Dohyun was walking Baram through one of the less crowded corridors on level 3. He had kept his promise to Commander Thess, keeping Baram on a lead and staying in areas where their presence would not cause panic. A small group of aliens had gathered at a safe distance, watching them. This had become common. They wanted to see the predator, to observe this strange partnership between human and animal. Barham handled the attention well. He ignored most of the watchers, focused on Do-Hyun and the walk itself. Occasionally, his tail would wag when a particularly brave alien would speak to him in a friendly tone. Minji walked with them today, telling Do-Hyun about her recent sales. "The silk is very popular. I have sold everything I brought. Next trip I will bring twice as much." "That is good," Do-Hyun replied. "The market here seems strong." They turned a corner into a wider corridor that connected several cargo storage areas. This section of the station was used primarily for holding shipments temporarily, so it was usually quiet. But today something was wrong. Do-Hyun heard it first, raised voices, the sound of panic. Then alarms started blaring, but not the station-wide alerts. These were localized warnings specific to this section. "Containment breach in Storage Bay 7, an automated voice announced. "All personnel evacuate immediately." Security teams respond. Minji and Do-Hyun exchange glances. "We should go back," Minji said. But before they could turn around, aliens came running down the corridor toward them. A mix of species, all fleeing from something. Their faces showed pure terror. "Run!" one of them shouted as they passed. "It is loose." Do-Hyun pulled Barham to the side, letting the fleeing aliens pass. "What is loose?" he called out. A Valerian stumbled to a stop, breathing hard. "Zelther swarm." Someone was smuggling genetic samples. The container broke. Do-Hyun's face went pale. Even on Earth, people knew about Zelther swarms. They were one of the few creatures that entire civilizations feared. A biological nightmare, something between a fungus, an animal, and a machine. They consumed organic matter to reproduce, growing exponentially if not stopped quickly. "How big?" Do-Hyun asked urgently. "Started small," the Valerian gasped. "Now maybe 3 meters across." It attacked a group of merchants. "They are trapped in Bay 7. Minji grabbed Do-Hyun's arm. "We need to leave now." But screams erupted from the direction of Bay 7. More aliens ran past, including one who was injured, leaving a trail of blue blood. Do-Hyun looked down at Barham. The dog was alert, sensing the tension in the air. His ears were forward, his body ready. Security teams arrived, led by Valix. They carried heavy weapons designed to deal with containment breaches. But when they saw the situation, even Valix hesitated. Through the open door of Storage Bay 7, they could see it. The Zelther swarm had grown large, a pulsing mass of translucent flesh that moved like a living wave. It had cornered 3 aliens against the far wall, a Thelian, a Hixian, and a crystalline being. They were trapped with nowhere to go. The swarm moved slowly but deliberately, sensing the organic matter nearby. Parts of it reached out like pseudopods, testing, searching. "We cannot shoot," one of the security guards said. "We might hit the trapped civilians." "Cryogenic containment," Valix ordered. "Hurry!" 2 guards ran back toward the equipment lockers. But that would take time. Time the trapped aliens might not have. The swarm surged forward. The trapped aliens screamed and Do-Hyun made a decision. He reached down and unclipped Barham's lead. "Do-Hyun, no!" Minji shouted, realizing what he was about to do, but it was too late. Do-Hyun looked at Barham and spoke in Korean, words that came from thousands of years of human-canine partnership. Words that had been spoken by shepherds protecting flocks, by soldiers in combat, by anyone who needed their dog to be brave. Barham understood. Not the words themselves, perhaps, but the intent behind them, the tone, the trust. He bolted forward, a gray and white blur of fur and muscle and instinct. Valix tried to grab Do-Hyun. "What have you done?" "The creature will be killed." "No," Do-Hyun said quietly, his eyes fixed on Barham. "He will not." Barham entered the storage bay at full speed. The swarm sensed him immediately, sensing new organic matter, bigger and more substantial than the trapped aliens. Part of the mass turned toward this new threat. But Barham did not attack the swarm directly. That would have been suicide. The moment he touched it, he would have been absorbed. Instead, he did what wolves had been doing for millions of years. He herded. He ran at the swarm from the side, barking, a deep, threatening sound that echoed through the bay. The swarm, which had primitive sensory organs, reacted to the sound and movement. Part of it shifted away from the trapped aliens, moving toward Barham. Barham darted to the side, then came at it from another angle, barking and snarling. The swarm followed, drawn by the noise and motion. The trapped aliens saw their chance. They ran, scrambling past the swarm while it was distracted, heading for the door. Security guards pulled them to safety. But now Bahram was alone in there with the creature. Hyunwoo had arrived, drawn by the commotion. He stood next to Do-hyun, watching through the doorway. "What is he doing?" "His job," Do-hyun replied, though his hands were clenched into tight fists. "He is buying us time." In the bay, Bahram continued his dangerous dance. He would rush at the swarm, make noise, draw its attention, then retreat before it could reach him. He was moving it slowly but steadily away from the door and toward the back corner of the bay. "The cryogenic trap," Velik suddenly shouted. "We can set it in that corner." Security teams rushed into action. While Bahram kept the swarm distracted, they positioned a large device in the corner where he was hurting the creature. It looked like a ring of metal poles connected by cables. "Ready!" One of the guards called out. "Bahram!" Do-hyun shouted. "Come!" The dog's ears perked up. He heard his human's voice, the most important sound in his world. But he was in the middle of the bay and the swarm was between him and the door. The swarm lunged at him faster than before. It had learned, adapted. Several pseudopods reached out, trying to grab him. Bahram jumped. His powerful legs pushed him upward and forward, clearing the nearest part of the swarm by centimeters. He landed and ran, heading straight for Do-hyun. Behind him, the swarm surged forward, chasing this prey that had been tormenting it. "Now!" Velik screamed. The guards activated the cryogenic trap. The temperature in the corner of the bay dropped instantly to hundreds of degrees below freezing. The swarm, which had been flowing into that space, froze solid. Its movement stopped. It became a sculpture of ice and alien flesh, no longer a threat. Bahram reached the doorway and shot through it, nearly knocking Do-hyun over. The human dropped to his knees, wrapping his arms around the dog, burying his face in thick fur. "Good boy," he whispered, his voice shaking. "Such a good boy." Bahram's tail wagged and he licked Do-hyun's face, completely unconcerned with the danger he had just faced. He had done what his human asked. That was all that mattered. The corridor was silent. Security guards, fleeing aliens, station workers, everyone stared at the human and his dog. Commander Thess arrived, her 6 legs carrying her quickly through the crowd. "Report, what happened?" Velik explained, his voice still unsteady. The Zelthar swarm had trapped 3 civilians. The human's creature, the dog, distracted it while we set the trap. He saved their lives. Thess's multiple eyes focused on Bahram, who was still being hugged by Do-hyun. The dog looked happy, his tongue hanging out, his tail still wagging. "That creature risked his life," Thess said slowly. "For aliens he does not know." "Why?" Minji stepped forward. "Because Do-hyun asked him to. Because that is what dogs do. They protect, they help. They are loyal, even unto death." One of the rescued aliens, the Thelian who had been trapped, approached slowly. She was shaking but determined. She stopped in front of Do-hyun and Bahram. "I am Vara," she said quietly. "That animal, your dog, he saved my life." Do-hyun looked up at her. "He did what he was trained to do." "No," Vara said firmly. "He did more than that. He was brave, braver than I have ever been." She hesitated, then reached out one trembling hand toward Bahram. Bahram sniffed her hand gently, then licked it. Vara made a sound that might have been a laugh or a sob. "Thank you," she whispered to the dog. "Thank you." Word of what happened spread through the station quickly. By evening, everyone on Nexus 7 knew the story. The predator that had terrified them had saved lives. The creature they had feared had proven to be a hero. That night, as Do-hyun sat in his ship with Bahram resting beside him, there was a knock on his airlock. He opened it to find a line of aliens outside. Dozens of them. They were holding things, gifts, food from their homeworlds, small trinkets, credits for your dog, one of them said. To thank him, Do-hyun was overwhelmed. He accepted the gifts, piling them inside his ship. Bahram watched with interest, especially when food. The morning after the incident, Do-hyun woke to find a message waiting on his communication terminal. It was from Commander Thess requesting his presence in the station's main conference room. He arrived with Bahram at his side, the dog's lead clipped to his collar as always. But something had changed. As they walked through the corridors, aliens no longer fled or looked away. Instead, they stopped and watched. Some nodded respectfully. A few even spoke words of thanks. One Hixian child, walking with her parent, broke away and ran toward Bahram. Her parent gasped in fear. But the child dropped to her knees and threw her arms around the dog's neck. "Thank you for being brave," she said in her high, clear voice. Barham's tail wagged gently. He licked the child's face, making her giggle. The parent approached cautiously. "I'm sorry." She wanted to meet the hero. "It is fine," Do-hyun assured them, smiling. Barham loves children. In the conference room, Commander Thess waited along with several other station officials. There was also a recording device set up, its lights blinking to indicate it was active. "Human Do-hyun," Thess began formally. "Thank you for coming. I have asked you here for an important reason. Yesterday's events have caused many on this station to question their understanding of Earth and its creatures. I would like to record a conversation with you, so that others across the galaxy might learn what we are learning." Do-hyun sat down in one of the chairs designed for humanoid species. Barham settled at his feet, resting his head on his paws. "What do you want to know?" Do-hyun asked. Thess settled onto a platform designed for her species. Around her, the other officials took their positions. Felix was there, looking far less frightened than he had been a few days ago. Kayla had been invited as well, representing the merchant community. "Tell us about dogs," Thess said simply. "Tell us how this partnership began." Do-hyun thought for a moment, considering how to explain something that was so natural to humans but so alien to others. "Thousands of years ago," he began, "humans were not the dominant species on Earth. We were weak compared to many predators. We could not run as fast as prey animals. We could not fight as well as large predators. We had to use our intelligence to survive." He paused, reaching down to stroke Barham's fur. The dog's eyes closed contentedly. "Our ancestors lived in groups and tribes. And on Earth, there was another species that also lived in groups. Wolves. They were pack animals, with complex social structures and cooperation. The ancestors of dogs," Felix said quietly. "Yes," Do-hyun confirmed. "Wolves were apex predators, very successful hunters. And humans noticed something: the wolves were intelligent. They could learn. They could cooperate. And they had something humans needed: strength, speed, sharp teeth, and keen senses." Sheila leaned forward. "So humans forced them to work together?" "No," Do-hyun said firmly. "That is the important part. Humans and wolves chose to work together. It was a partnership. Humans shared their food with wolves. They gave them shelter and protection. In return, wolves helped humans hunt. They warned humans of danger. They guarded human camps at night. Both species benefited," Thess observed. "Exactly. And over time, over many generations, something amazing happened. The wolves that stayed with humans began to change. They became friendlier, more trusting. They learned to read human expressions and emotions. And humans changed too. We developed the ability to communicate with dogs, to understand their body language, their sounds." Hyunwoo entered the conference room, having been invited to provide additional perspective. He sat down and nodded to Do-hyun to continue. "The wolves that stayed with humans became dogs," Do-hyun said. "They were bred selectively, choosing the friendliest, most loyal ones to have puppies. After thousands of years, they became a new subspecies. Same species genetically, but behaviorally different. Dogs are wolves that evolved to be human companions." One of the officials, a floating Jellian, spoke up. "But they retained their predator traits. The teeth, the strength, the hunting instincts." "Yes," Do-hyun agreed. "Dogs are still predators, but they are predators who have chosen to be part of human families. They see humans as their pack. They are loyal to us beyond reason." "Beyond reason?" Thess repeated. Hyunwoo spoke up. "Dogs will die for their humans. There are countless stories of dogs sacrificing themselves to save human lives. Dogs who stayed in burning buildings to wake their owners. Dogs who fought off attackers much larger than themselves. Dogs who refused to leave injured humans even when they could have escaped." The room fell silent as the aliens processed this. Minji arrived then, carrying a portable display screen. "I thought these might help explain," she said, setting up the screen. "With permission?" Commander Thess gestured her approval. Minji began showing images from Earth. The officials watched, their expressions shifting from curiosity to amazement, to something that might have been understanding. There were pictures of huge dogs sleeping next to tiny human babies, their massive heads resting gently near the infants. Pictures of working dogs, some pulling sleds through snow, others helping people with disabilities, still others working alongside law enforcement. Pictures of search and rescue dogs, finding people trapped in collapsed buildings. Pictures of therapy dogs in hospitals, bringing comfort to sick children. Pictures of old dogs, gray in the face, still watching over their elderly human companions with devoted eyes. Dogs do all of this? Vara, the Thelian who had been saved by Bahram, had arrived and stood at the doorway. They serve humans in so many ways. They do, Minji confirmed. But we do not think of it as service. We think of it as partnership, as friendship, as family. She clicked to another image. It showed a young human child, maybe 5 or 6 years old, with arms wrapped around a large dog. Both were smiling. Yes, dogs could smile, their mouths open in expressions of joy that humans understood instinctively. This is why yesterday's event was not surprising to us, Minji said softly. When Bahram risked his life to save strangers, he was doing what dogs have been doing for thousands of years, protecting, helping, being loyal. Felix stood up, moving closer to Bahram. The dog looked up at him with calm, intelligent eyes. May I? Felix asked, extending his hand. Of course, Do-hyun said. Felix touched Bahram's head hesitantly at first, then with more confidence. I was so frightened of you, he said to the dog. I saw only a predator. I did not see what you truly are, and what is that? Commander Thess asked. Felix looked at her. A friend, a companion, someone who would risk everything for those he cares about. He paused. These are not predator traits. These are noble traits. Keela approached as well, sitting on the floor next to Bahram. The dog's tail began to wag. She ran her hands through his fur, marveling at the soft texture. On my world, she said quietly, we have legends about our ancient predators, stories told to frighten children, to teach them caution. In our stories, predators are always evil, always dangerous. She looked at Bahram. But you are not evil. You are good. Do-hyun smiled sadly. Predators are not evil. They never were. They are just animals trying to survive. Earth's predators killed humans, yes, but they were not monsters. They were just hungry or defending territory or protecting their young, just as human ancestors killed for food and survival. The difference, Hyunwoo added, is that humans learned to see past the danger. We learned that predators could be partners instead of enemies. We learned that what makes something dangerous can also make it valuable. A dog's strong jaws can kill, yes, but those same jaws can carry a child gently, can pull a person from water, can hold a toy for a game of fetch. Commander Thess stood and walked closer to the group gathering around Bahram. I have been thinking about this for 2 days, she said, trying to understand how humans did this impossible thing. And I believe I have realized something. Everyone looked at her. Humans are not afraid of danger, Thess continued. Or rather, you feel fear, but you do not let it control you. When other species see a predator, we see only death. We run, we hide, we build walls. But humans see opportunity. You see a creature that could be an ally, a partner, a friend. That is not just about predators, Minji said. That is about everything on Earth. Our world is dangerous in many ways. Storms, earthquakes, diseases, predators. Most species would look at Earth and call it a death world. But humans call it home. We love our dangerous planet. We embrace it. Vara spoke from the doorway. I have been asking other species about their home worlds. Most of them are safe, calm. Their evolution was slow and peaceful. But Earth, she trailed off, searching for words. Earth is chaos, Do-hyun said simply. It is beautiful chaos. It creates incredible diversity. Millions of species, all competing, all adapting, all surviving. Yes, it is dangerous. Yes, many things can kill you. But that danger created humans. It made us clever. It made us resilient. It made us able to look at a wolf and see a friend. And now you travel the stars with that friend, Thess observed, looking at Bahram. I do, Do-hyun confirmed. Bahram has been to 12 different planets with me. He has walked on alien soil. He has met dozens of species. And everywhere we go, once people understand, they stop seeing a predator. They see what he truly is, a very good boy. Sheila suggested, smiling slightly. Do-hyun laughed. Yes, the very best boy. Bahram, hearing the affection in his human's voice, stood up and stretched.